so much. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I do want to go on the record of saying a massive thank you to Justin for giving me the 2 graveyard shifts. This one, when you're all desperate for lunch, and then the last one of the day, when you're all desperate to go out drinking. So, we're going to try and make this lively and entertaining. The plan, as I think lots of CTV panels are very fuzzy, is to try and get into the real detail and actually figure out, first of all, are we realizing the full potential of CTV as a platform for advanced advertising? If so, what's next? If not, what do we do about it? And should we care? So, to that end, we're going to start with the CTV guy. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself and just give us 30 seconds on whether you think we're unlocking the full potential of CTVs as an ad platform?
Sure. My name is Dave Pauk. I'm the Regional Sales Director for Samsung Ads Canada. I think we are on the cusp of unlocking the full potential of connected TV, particularly in Canada. As a global electronics company, you know, we also have a vested interest in understanding what consumers want. So when we see the adoption of smart TVs continuing and accelerating over the last 2 years, I think eMarketer reported in their last report 49%. So we've got a long way to go in terms of, you know, having household penetration with smart TVs. So for us, you know, we've seen tremendous growth as well. We've been selling a ton of TVs. We're up to 5 million Samsung smart TVs that are connected now. So, you know, we can see that there's a huge upside there, and for advertisers, there's a huge audience there that's already streaming, that's already shifted over or watching both linear and streaming. And the potential with the real potential for us, from my perspective, is ACR. I know you've heard that term mentioned before, automatic content recognition. It's the ability to understand what's happening at the glass level of a TV. So regardless of what the source is, what you're watching, what TV show, what genre, we're able to understand everything at the glass level and then extrapolate that data to provide real, meaningful one-to-one household insights on viewership, as well as the desired outcomes that a media planner or a marketer would want to achieve.
And in the US, which is where I'm now based, ACR is all the rage, along with set-top box data and impression level data, for powering the next generation of audience measurement solutions. Is the Canadian market making use of ACR data in that way?
That's a great question. For Samsung in particular, our solutions, our technology for ACR is at parity with the US. So the success that they're having in the US, we're starting to see that here. We launched in Canada after the US. It was 3 years ago, and since then we've just seen, you know, tremendous adoption of our solutions, of our capabilities, and for, you know, the marketers that have already embraced connected TV and the insights that ACR can provide, you know, they're seeing tremendous results from that.
Okay, I think we'll come back to that. Let's jump on. Damien?
Hey, I'm Damien. I manage Canada and LATAM for Magnite. Magnite is a supply-side platform and an ad server. So we literally help the publishers like Samsung or Tubi to be able to get programmatic buy and the programmatic pipe working. On the question around the opportunity, I think it's not yet there. There is versus where we can be for 3 reasons. The first one is the consumer, so the actual viewers. We're still at the beginning, like many people, like my mom, or a lot of people are not yet watching CTV. So I think there's a lot of audience, and that's that growth that we are all betting on here.
Just quickly, because I'm so keen to eliminate fuzziness. When you say people aren't watching CTV, what do you mean?
I think a lot of people are still watching linear. Like if you're taking anyone over 50, like there are a lot of people still, a majority of them are still watching linear TV. So they are not watching.
So you're talking about CTV as a type of content there?
Well, yeah, yes. They are. I think it's also technologically wise. They are watching their cable TV. Okay.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
We're definitely coming
and
back
it's
to
changing. It's changing fast, but you still have many people that have not cut the cord. The second part would be the publisher. Like the technology is implemented more and more, but there is still a lot of purchase that is still doing in a regular and old way, and we are hoping to change that. And the final thing is the buyer. Like there's many people that still think, no offense, but YouTube on big screen is still CTV. Well, it's not. So there's a lot of things we can, and we'll come back to that. But there is still many education to be done on terms of buyer, on what is it CTV, is it brand safe, is it premium, what is Tubi, what is like Pluto, what is all those kind of brands that we have heard about, but maybe we're not watching massively yet in Canada. So the future is extremely bright because we are just at the beginning of CTV really, and CTV becoming really TV.
And just briefly, Dave, presumably YouTube on your typical Samsung Smart TV is often one of the most watched services. So do you agree with Damien that in your world YouTube is not CTV?
I think that YouTube has some penetration on the big screen, but it's not as robust as the rest of their platforms.
Got you. Okay. I don't think we'll come back to that. Tyler, presumably you love CTV, but tell us who you are first.
Yeah, I am Tyler Fitch. I'm the SVP of Advanced TV and Partnerships for Tubi. Since you let me back in this wonderful country 3 years ago, we've been acquired by Fox Entertainment and now a part of that footprint now. And do I think it's being utilized yet here? Absolutely not. Not even close yet. Just coming back into the market and having that conversation with there, I still see a huge hesitancy to enter into the market still. And I think the opportunity here and just the growth that we've seen in the Canadian market, we came into the market when nobody was here. We were the first AVOD. Sony had just pulled out. We came in. And we've seen the growth here, and as with a partnership of Rogers, has really accelerated that growth. But from a spend standpoint on linear and digital and figuring out that piece of the pie, it's still up in the air right now, and I think we're close. And I've heard a lot of people speak about Netflix, and I'm waiting for Netflix to come in before I lean in, which is a little crazy and very far off. But it's definitely the opportunity is there, and the eyeballs are there, and we can prove it, and we can show it, and that's the best thing about digital is that information, it's there. It's now just surfacing and getting people comfortable with spending on television at scale, and whether it be linear or on digital television. I think the tools are there, the technology is there. Now the dollars need to follow the eyeballs, and it hasn't happened yet, but it can very quickly.
And just to be clear, one of the things you're talking about there, which I definitely want to come back to, is some of the capabilities presented by IP-delivered video on a TV screen, which is revolutionary in lots of ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about having the tentpole IP address to measure what happens after a household is exposed and the signals that we get from other places, and we talk about, and we've done a lot of work in the ID space and being able to transact in a privacy compliant way and be able to tell who's in that house and create an idea around measurement and frequency and all these other things, what happened, attribution. It's all possible on connected TV, and we have buyers in the States, as I say, have leaned in heavily, and it's still a little bit far behind. I know Dave mentioned ACR and that side of the business, but there is also foot traffic, brand lift. I mean, incremental reach is just such an easy one for us to go in and show that in the U.S., and here it's a little less because there is, linear is still doing fairly well here compared to the States, but it's the incremental reach here is in that 60 to 80% range, and those are eyeballs that you're not reaching right now, and it's now at scale, which it wasn't before. So when I say it's not ready yet, I think it is there. It's just we need to go ahead and take it.
And scale is the issue in a sense, as you described it.
I think there's confusion in market. I think there is hesitation. There's always the saying, nobody got fired for buying TV. But TV is doing really well, and they're still doing great. But there is that incremental spend, and we talked about where do those dollars come from? Do they come from social? Do they come from linear? Do they just come from a digital budget or YouTube? That's what we got to see.
Brilliant. Chimi, give us your sense. Are we reaching the full potential of CTV in Canada?
Cool. I'm Chimi Nwagbara. I'm VP of Investment at Wavemaker. My perspective is more from a broadcast lens, and for me, the excitement with CTV is it takes away that conversation of TV is dead, you know? The TV set is still the most important furniture in the house. TV content is still highly engaging, it's still drawing audiences. For me, what is lacking is from a CTV perspective, is the ability to truly measure and close that gap. We know that a significant amount of people that watch CTV are younger audiences, but we can't really track how much they're actually watching, and that makes it difficult for us to have those conversations with our clients. Frequency as well is a huge problem because we can have people who are heavy TV viewers watching across CTV platforms and reaching them through a ton of different platforms with the same ad. So that is an issue for me. Measurement is an issue, and I also think there's a lot of innovation going on, but in silos. So we're talking about ACR on Samsung, we're talking about Samba TV working with MIQ. These are all really exciting things, but I really think we truly, as an industry, need to start innovating together to push CTV forward.
Love it, especially the silo point, which we're definitely coming back to. Very quick question. When you say younger audiences, especially, are watching CTV, again, you're using CTV there not as a type of device, but as a type of content on a, say, smart television, right? You're talking about streaming services on a connected television.
So I have similar opinions to Damien on what CTV truly means, and I think CTV can be, you know, anything on your TV screen, but really what is engaging and interesting to our clients is the content that they're going to be appearing in. And for me, what's truly important and what we've seen time and time again based on research is the power of broadcast premium quality content. And I really truly believe that is where CTV is more engaging. Sorry, I was going to...
So when you talk about younger audiences watching more CTV, are you talking about them watching, you know, Tubi, for example? So Tubi doesn't have a broadcast channel. You're not distributed ATA. It's a streaming-only service of ad-funded content, a lot of which was originally made for TV and film. It's licensed, but it has no broadcast existence at present, by and large. Is that?
So I don't want to restrict CTV just to younger audiences because I think it's certainly evolved, especially during the pandemic. At the beginning of it, it was definitely that 16 to 34 audience watching. It's grown beyond that, and it's more than just, you know, the broadcaster quality content that I'm talking about. Certainly, younger audiences are missing from TV. We talk about the, you know, declining audiences on television. I would love for us to be able to close that gap, especially with those audiences that we see not watching TV but actually consuming TV content on their TV set outside of their set-top box. We need to be able to bring that together and really report better.
Got you.
Yeah, just to add on that, I mean, that's how Tubi was built, we weren't a big media company first. We had to be smart. We had to acquire content that people wanted to watch. And you talked about these cord cutters or younger folks that aren't on linear TV, but that's always what we've been really focused on, is super serving these underserved people that we don't think about all day long. And that's where we've seen that adoption and the personalization for that, and acquiring the biggest libraries possible, and then using kind of our Silicon Valley background to personalize that and make it like it's just like we do on TikTok. Every video seems like it's made for us. We took that approach, but with movies and TV. But to your point, that's really where we're missing, and the power of connected television are these audiences that we're not seeing right now and are able to reach now.
I mean, and that to me is a really key point, that connected TVs dramatically lower the barriers to entry into that device in the corner of the living room. You know, you can roll up a video app and get it out pretty widely, and that means lots of video rights owners or companies that didn't previously have much opportunity can now reach consumers at home on a big shiny screen with a high quality ad and great content, which may be expensive or not, but okay. Right, we've got the lay of the land established. You're a very expert audience, so before we go into the next question, I just want to get a very quick show of hands. How many people here would regard themselves as fairly familiar with the CTV landscape? So you don't need us to describe it, you know it. Who's familiar? If you're familiar, stick your hand up. It's about half. Okay, we probably need to spend a bit of time, but we'll do it quickly. So Dave, again, with your CTV hat on, just give us the headlines on the landscape. how many households have CTVs? How much time do they spend with those devices? And what market share does Samsung have?
So again, according to eMarketer, they report 49%. So roughly half of all smart TV household or all households. From a consumption perspective, and this is from our Samsung ACR data, which is encompasses linear, OTT, as well as gaming behaviors, and then ad exposure. There's an opportunity to really understand how much time people are spending in these different areas of TV. And we like to call it CTV, advanced TV, AVOD, SVOD. Consumers just call it TV. They just want to turn their TV on, find the content they want, and find some relevancy when they're being served ads. So from a Samsung perspective, we're seeing that about 60-ish% of Samsung households are a combination of linear and streaming. 34% is streaming only. So these are people that don't have any cable or any satellite set up.
It's a big number, in other words.
It's a big number.
From a Magnite perspective, when you think about CTV, what CTV inventory is available in the programmatic supply chain? What are the big sources?
That's very interesting because when we started that adventure of CTV 2-3 years ago, being really focused on it, we had around 50 million opportunities a month. Now we have around 1.5 billion and available for in Canada for advertiser to buy. So the magnitude of the growth has been tremendous. And we are thinking we're going to double that again next year, so around 3 billion. So reach scale in CTV is not an issue. The issue is fragmentation. So you're going to have one ad server for Roku, one ad server for Amazon, one ad server. So that's complicated. So from our point of view, what we can do and what we are trying to do really is really simplify that. And we have one product called SpringServe, sorry for the plug, that allow us to reach that. So for our point of view, the issue number one was fragmentation, and we're trying to solve it. It's not scale. I think to Chimi's point, part of it is the measurement and the frequency and proving to an advertiser that his ad is not going to be watched like back 5 years ago 10 times in a row. And there is tool for that. So it is 90% solved, but we need to prove it. I think that's part of that.
And just on the inventory point, what if I'm Chimi and I'm trying to buy against CTV inventory?
So I mean,
what am I buying against?
So you have a few choices. The first choice is you go to the broadcaster and you buy in an insert order. The good old days, you sign a paper and you buy, and that's really massively how it's purchased today, like in Canada. That's number one, and that there's not a lot of. More and more, but less. But it's not huge. The second part is you try to buy the same broadcaster programmatically, the same premium broadcaster that I've talked this morning and that are my clients. But it's complicated here because, again, everything has been sold in direct I/O. And so that's what is the most sought after content, and that's what everyone wants, and that's not what's most widely available. The third solution is you go to see Paul or Tyler or us or any, I call it aggregator, even though it might not be a complete good description, which have done deals with all those broadcasters so that when you are turning your TV, you see a Bell or your Samsung TV, a Bell or a Roger app or a Curse app, well, they have part of that inventory that are allowed to resell. And so that's what Samsung is going to go sell. It's as premium as the rest, but it's, and sorry to describe you, tell me if I'm wrong, but so you're going to see Bell or Roger on Samsung when you buy Samsung. So that's the third opportunity, which I think, in my opinion, is the most untapped one because it's the less understood one by advertiser. Because they say, if I'm buying Samsung, that means I'm buying Samsung plus TV, which is partially true. Yes, you have channels that are dedicated to Samsung, but the large majority, it's broadcaster, you will know. And it's the same with Zumo, for instance, or with other aggregators, or Roku, it's the exact same thing. So that's the big opportunity for me, is for buyers to better understand that landscape.
Okay. Tyler, just quickly, in terms of understanding the landscape, if I'm an advertiser or agency and I come to Tubi and I want to buy against your CTV inventory in Canada, what am I buying and what audiences can I reach?
Well, I think that's the interesting thing is Tubi currently is across 24 different platforms. And so we view it, one, it's an app. And so everything looks the same. You get identifiers for your advertiser ID, you get your IP address. So you get that holistic view for your reach and frequency. And I get that a lot so far since my week here is people worried about frequency or over frequency. And that's very easily controlled, like through a Magnite platform or through a DSP. I think that pushback there is kind of like what I get about the hesitancy about investing heavily. Like there are solutions out there. A lot of times you just have to ask, and sometimes they're trying to model out reach frequency models. Like, why don't we just handle it for you? And that's where Rogers and some of these roll-ups are going. We'll handle that for you and across all the broadcasters and a connected TV and handle that for you. But I think the big thing, and I created the advanced TV team at Tubi 3 years ago, and what it was just to create the conversation, knowing that people are going to speak different languages to different people. I have linear buyers, I had linear sellers, I had digital sellers selling to linear buyers, and we created that kind of a safeguard and something to really understand what's under the hood and how to make it make sense for each buyer. When we would go into an agency or a holding company, you need to have that conversation. And it's like, oh, I have this reservation about spending. Well, we have a solution for that. This is what we can do. We can use ACR data for incremental reach. We can measure foot traffic. We can do brand lift. Like all these things are there. I just don't think it's being utilized. And that's why you get that hesitancy into really spending what you need to be to get to those eyeballs. Because a lot of people want reach and they want eyeballs and they're just missing them right now. The budgets aren't there.
Okay. Final question of the landscape round. Chimi, when you're working with advertisers who want to invest in CTV, give us a flavor of who they are and what they're trying to achieve. Are they big TV spenders just looking for some incremental reach and frequency? Are they CTV-only advertisers who are attracted to the capabilities of the platforms? Who are they and what are they looking for?
It's a mix, really. We have advertisers who are heavy TV spenders who are looking to branch out, maybe reach a younger segment of their demographic. Maybe for them, they've tapped out on reach from a TV perspective and now are looking to grow more reach in that TV content space. But then we also have clients who are heavy online video spenders who want to include CTV as part of their mix. And so they would include, and I think what tends to happen is possibly multiple CTV partners in one plan, and that's where we see that issue with frequency, because I can be buying Bell directly. I'd also have Samsung on the plan. Like we can see there's no like clash management when you're going direct and buying in that way. So it's hard to track it and measure it in that way. And then when we're talking about reach as well, I'm just responding to what you said before. When we're talking about reach, yes, everybody can create reach graphs or reach and frequency numbers in their silos, but from an advertiser perspective, they want to know what their total reach on the plan is, not just by vendor. And that's an issue, and that I don't think it's something that, I'm not putting this on you to solve, but I'm just saying from an industry perspective, that's the issue.
And it's totally like, this is across any advertiser. They have that worries about saying, well, I'm still buying linear, so I'm happy you're telling me you have reached 10 times on CTV someone, but how many times on linear, and how do I decouple that? But the good news is that there is a solution to that. It's the ACR, which it's Samsung or LG. There is the TV is listening. So when L'Oreal is buying 10 times on linear TV, the TV is hearing that and therefore is able to tell to our ad server that you shouldn't buy a 12 or 14 times. So I think that's really why ACR technologies, again, whether it's any TVs, are powerful because they allow that with a modern ad server.
So we're getting into the barriers part of the discussion now. So what is it that's stopping us unleashing the full potential of this remarkable series of platforms? And I guess when I've looked in the past, which I've done a lot, one thing that keeps coming up again and again and again is this silo in question. So ACR data is a great solution for certain problems, but you've got your own proprietary ACR solution. Roku has one acquired from Nielsen. I think there's 5 of them in the market, is my understanding. And they're all different. Can't you guys all just talk and figure it out?
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, you know, there's been a lot of talk about collaboration today, and I'm sitting, you know, next to Damien and Tyler, and, you know, and you could say that we're competitors, but really we collaborate across, you know, programmatic offerings, across content offerings. So we are working together, but I think that there's, you know, there's always going to be some form of silos when you're controlling your own first-party data. How that's going to look in the future, whether, you know, with the advent of more clean rooms and whatnot, that remains to be seen, and I think there's potential there as part of that.
Because Chimi seems to me, as a big spender on connected TV, has just given you guys a very clear outline of a problem that is stopping her clients spending with you. And
I mean, I think on the ACR data, like you don't necessarily need a sample that is 100% of the population to do a guess. With the progress of machine learning, and if you have like 1-2 million households, so which or 5, but even 2, no, but like you don't need that much, and then you can guess with the lookalike modeling with pretty good accuracy what the behavior of the rest. So you do not actually need I mean, it's better if we all communicate, but in the same times, with a small amount of data, you can actually guess with good accuracy, and that's pretty good enough to guess the reach that you need.
Because again, here's a hypothesis I want to land with you. So CTV is massively exciting, but it has one big problem, which is that partly because it's so new and because it's quite a complicated ecosystem, there isn't really an industry body that can just bang heads together and say, it's insane that Chimi's clients can't understand the reach and frequency of their campaigns or are delivering 20 ads to the same household back to back, you know, with no ad rules. It's insane that I can't coordinate across different CTV OEMs or between different DSPs, SSPs, or across different streaming services to understand the reach of my campaign. And that's a huge barrier. So can't you all just get in a room and sort it out?
Well, I can say, like, in what the U.S. market did is that we saw a gigantic consolidation of assets to kind of help you solve this problem. And I
buying
think,
each other is one other solution to the problem.
Yeah, but
I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, you just saw it here with the Chorus and Pluto, and then us and Rogers. It's very similar. They didn't acquire us by any means, but they are our sales team, and they are our voice here in Canada.
And the TV industry, it has to be said, has a many-decade head start on sorting out this stuff.
Well, look, I think this whole thing is we're here to make it easy for you to spend dollars, whether it's on broadcast. And that's really what we saw when we saw it explode, was just making it very easy for you to go to one place and say, here's my dollars. I want, and there would be fluidity across linear and digital. It's the same TV. Obviously, sports is going to carry a premium, but like, we're here to make it easy. I think that's maybe the problem, is because we're maybe not making it easy right now.
I will say that I recently did an exercise, and when you look at, you know, TV-only, broadcast quality, non-home screen content, the CPM just skyrockets. You know, it becomes super expensive to get that true CTV quality inventory that we're looking for. It's great that I can speak to YouTube and get their super high reach percentage for CTV, and you know, I can get data from Samsung specifically, but we need to be able to get it just as we do from a TV perspective. If you guys really truly want to compete with television and have that conversation, you need to be able to create more industry-wide tools for measurement that can allow us to talk more sensibly to our clients.
And just asking, I mean, and Magnite would say this too, but like we're passing you the data to look at that audience. We're not a walled garden by any means. I think it is that conversation that how we can help you measure or how we can give you more insight. I mean, we have the content signals. We know the audience for content. And that's where we are in the States, is trying to tell you what you ran on and exactly who that person was.
Can I just pick you up on that? Because again, personal frustration. I'm always amazed that CTV players say they know their audience. So you know, as Tubi, I'm guessing you know how many video streams you served, to what make and model of device, so you have a device ID. You probably have an IP address.
We go
and
way,
you know that you
way
served
more
ads.
than that.
What else do you know about who's sitting in front of a telly?
So we're a personalization service. Like, we are looking at many different signals to decide what content we're going to show that person. We have such a broad library. We have 20,000 titles and 2.5 million people on the platform.
Is that
and they all
that's
see
the
different
targeting
stuff.
you offer generally? Is
Yeah,
it?
and that's what we just release content insights, and that's exactly what we're doing is tell us the audience you want to reach, or just post-campaign, these are the audiences, and we're using different data sets to go and show that this is an audience. Because we're doing that already, and it wasn't hard. I get the piggyback off
So it's kind of behavioral and contextual targeting you can offer in spades.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, and to be honest, Tubi was a new person. We had to prove our worth to everybody. Nobody really believed us. And this is measurement and targeting, and data was how we got people comfortable spending with us. And so there's so many other things that are involved, but that is one part of our business that we've really focused on.
Just to add, we have that information from every partner. Like, we get calculators from everybody. Use our calculator to work this out. It's just, we're talking about that being siloed, not specifically because people are holding things back, not specifically because people are holding back information. It's just that we're getting information in a little box, you know, and I don't want to say a walled garden, but just I get information from one vendor for their stuff, and that's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a programmatic standpoint, a DSP can help that. But yeah, you're right. There are, and we're seeing this with clean room technology and things like that here in the States, like trying to organize everybody's data for one agency to make sense for them is really, really hard.
And it is complicated, isn't it? Because the market is growing rapidly. There's huge and exciting technological innovations like clean room infrastructure coming out. Everyone, your competitors and peers are all starting to work with them. So you've got to do something. But if you talk to the buy side don't particularly want to have to deal with 25 different proprietary clean rooms. They'd quite like to deal with some common infrastructure. And that's a bit slower to develop.
And the publishers don't want to either. I think that's the other problem.
Yeah, 100%. You know.
Yeah, and I think something else, you know, in terms of barriers to adoption also stems from, you know, how buyers, how agencies, how it's being perceived from a planning and strategy standpoint. You know, does it fall under a linear buyer? And then if that's the case, you know, they have a tendency to apply demo targeting, which, you know, isn't necessarily the best use of connected TV. And then on the other side, you have, you know, digital buyers who want to layer 10 different segments, you know, which basically brings your scale down to 0. So we really fall in between there, and I think the real opportunity, you know, is to help our agency partners understand the true value of what they're getting and where that falls within your own silos to help you deliver the outcomes that you need for your clients.
Sadly, we're down to 53 to 1 seconds, and it's counting down all the time. So we're just about done. CTV is clearly massively exciting, it seems to me, and there's some stuff to do to make it work even better and unlock its full potential. Final quick word from each of you. If there is a vehicle for collaboration, and that vehicle decides to do one thing in 2023 to unlock the full potential of the market, what's the one thing you would like to see the industry collaborating to fix? Dave, do you want to go first?
Relevancy for content as well as advertising.
Okay. The one thing we should fix next year is?
I think using the right technology and being able to implement it at scale, given the issue of the backlog of implementation on the publisher, is probably one of the things that we can wish for next year.
Cool. Tyler, the one thing we should fix next year?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, the planning and activation side and measurement side has been what's holding it back a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, same for me. I think the ability to plan for incremental audiences with one central tool would be amazing.
Brilliant. We've solved the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the CTV panel. Thank you to our panelists. Lunch awaits.